me as the one, the only Prime Friends, and welcoming you to Starfleet Universe On Call. And tonight we have the one, the only, the Barry Kirk. How you doing, Barry?
I am doing fabulous. I'm doing fabulous. Finally arrived back home. Haven't been here since Thanksgiving. Was I here Thanksgiving? I don't.
Barry, I can't listen to you and do this.
Oh, I don't even think I was in this house Thanksgiving. So it's been probably September, October the last time I was home.
Yep. Oh, man.
And I'm looking at a kitchen full of Springer Spaniels. All laid out in their beds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, in any case, I'm also looking at in the SSD book, Omega 3. There's several possible candidates we could use as a basis for a tournament cruiser, because there is no tournament cruiser that we have yet.
That is very true.
Yeah. So I started with the Singer Heavy Cruiser, which has a BP.
Continue.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I was looking actually the Singer Battle Cruiser myself at 148.
Yeah. Okay. I can go look at the Battle Cruiser. Oh my, that Battle Cruiser is a much more powerful. And the main difference is that battle cruiser has some stuff that I don't think you really. It's got some L'Oreal technology in it. It's got flame shields, 3 of them.
Huh.
But it's also got the enhanced tachyosonic beam.
Right.
Which, if you look at the charts on the SSD, that just doesn't work.
Right. Well, the charts in the SSD are wrong. I noticed that actually for the tachyosonic beams in the
when you're off that phone, let me know, because I don't know what
it was mentioning how
my wife was asking me questions. What?
When you're off that conversation, let me know, because I have no idea what I'm doing here.
Okay,
oh boy. Well, Barry, I'll put you on pause for a moment.
Support. Yeah, put me on pause.
Okay. Yeah. Because he has to deal with his wife. But anyhow, the one thing that I noticed definitely was with the tachyosonic beams. Let me see if I can pronounce it right. According to the note, the tables in the rule are correct. The tables on the SSD are incorrect, which makes sense because of you can easily update the rule book versus updating the SSDs. Because the SSDs require a total reprint, which costs a lot of money, and Lord knows, I can understand why Steve Cole currently is unwilling to do a whole reprint, because he's got a lot of I'm sure he has a lot of copies of the Omegas, which he still wants to get through. And so just throwing those out that's a lot of money down the tubes. So that is true. When it comes to, let me bring that up. Let me do this one, and that's okay. The heavy cruiser is definitely less powerful. He only has the tachyosonic beams, not the enhanced ones. We can ignore this chart here on the side, because the chart is actually here, which is basic damage is 1, not 3. Light overload is basically 2 instead of instead of 4 standard overload, actually regular overload, that's what it's called here, versus standard overload, which is what it's called in the original chart, is 3, and the critical overload's 4 versus 6. It looks like even the ranges too changed a little bit when it comes to overloads. Light overload being able to go out to only 14, and the standard overload only be able to go out to a range of 8. So, you ready, Barry?
Hey. I am. She was trying to set up a domain for, I guess, a blog for my son. And so she bought a domain name. And she wanted to, I guess it takes about, a day or so for that to propagate. And whatever. All right, so we're looking at the battle cruiser. So it's got 1, 2, 3, 4 enhanced tachysonic beams. Now, the enhanced tachysonic beam, even the chart in the Omega Master Rulebook, the basic, which takes 3 points of power to charge, does 10 points of damage if it hits. But it's like a PPD that fires 5 times, 5 pulses.
Right.
So let's say at range 9 to 14, let's say you get 4 pulses that hit. You did 3 points in, you got 8 points out. That's actually pretty good. That's better than a photon. It certainly cost, the photon would have cost 4 to arm. This costs 3 to arm, and it's got a better hit number than a photon. But at that range, you can put 6 points of power in, and you say 12 out, so that's better than a photon.
Agreed, but
and then of course at range.
Right, range.
Yeah, go ahead.
The only thing I was going to mention is, of course, because of its one, that's damage on a per impulse basis. That can be good.
Yes.
And that could be bad. It could be
right.
It could be good in the aspect if you're hitting already a down shield. You have that whole
Mesa effect.
Thank you.
Yes, I know.
But or it can be bad, which is because it also gives your opponent the opportunity to change shield facings.
Unless he's Andromeda, in which case he has a lot less flexibility there.
Agreed. But fortunately, because of the numbers, where is it? Darn it! I gotta look at the chart again. Here it is. Okay, for regular tachyon beam, it's not until you actually get the regular overloads that you actually can do degradation. Until that time, it's purely energy. And let me just do one quick check, because I'm pretty sure I did not see any special rules for the Andromedans.
No, I didn't. I didn't see anything.
Well, that's also per weapon versus. Let me just look at this, because currently you have 4 of them, but the maximum is 4 if you center line. That's gonna be that's hard to keep. Period.
For 5 impulses, yes.
Yeah, you could. So I wouldn't fire. No matter what, I would not fire 4, ever.
Yeah, but even if you fire 3
Right.
at range 8,
Right. Then it would get degradation
then
because of it's 3 hits.
right. Well, you're doing 12 points of damage per impulse, and
How's that?
we're hit number 2 to 8. Say the first impulse, 2 of them hit,
Right.
and the second impulse, the third one hits. So you've done
Right.
35 points of damage. Well, no, I'm sorry. Let's see, 10, 14 pulses at 4 points each. That's 56 points of damage.
Barry, which table
Yeah.
are you looking at?
The one in the enhanced tachyosonic beam
Oh, okay.
in the rule
Right.
book.
So you're actually also we're still looking at the battle cruiser.
Yeah. So that's a lot of damage. Now, interestingly enough, let's say I fire on impulse 32.
Yeah.
I can start charging the weapon even if it's not done firing.
Huh. That's interesting.
Yes.
So in theory, you can have it firing
Every 33
every turn,
impulses.
basically, is what you can.
Well, no, not every turn, because it would be the end of one turn.
Yeah.
Then,
You fire the end of one turn. You're still firing in the next turn. You can fire the same weapon the next turn after that.
well, yeah, but there's basically twice. It says here, rate given TSB may not fire more than once at any period of 2 consecutive turns, but it could be fired on impulse 32 of turn X and again on impulse 1 of turn X plus 2, twice in 33 impulses.
Okay. So basically it's you could do 2 turns in a row, but it would require it to be at the latter end of the next turn.
Right.
Right. If you want to fire
Now the enhanced cut. Yeah, the regular overload. The enhanced tachyostonic beam. Let's see. The regular overload has a range of 8. If somebody decides to turtle on you and or star castle on you, and you can get to range 4, holy crap!
Mm-hmm.
You can do. Your chances are very good at hitting the first pulse. So that's 5 pulses. That's 25 points of damage. So 100 total pulses, 100 points of damage total. Of course, they can be held. The enhanced can increase the arming level by 2 levels per turn. So I could take a regular overload or a light overload and add energy to make it a critical overload. And the enhanced tachyostonic beam can hold critical overloads.
Dang, man. Ouch.
Yeah, that's a nasty weapon. Yes, ETSBs can be held at the critical overload stage for 4 points of power.
Right. But again, you're limited to a range of 4, too.
Well, yeah. But unlike the PPD, the minimum range is 2, not 4. That's huge.
Minimum range is the minimum range is 4. Because the
minimum
the myopic zone is 0 to 3.
No, myopic zone is 0 and 1.
The myopic zone for the PPD?
Oh, for the PPD, yes. But for the tachyosonic
Right.
beam, it's 0 and 1.
Right. Agreed. But at the same time,
Which is a huge advantage over the PPD. Now, it doesn't have the splash damage, but still.
wow.
Yeah, I would definitely have to tone the battle cruiser down a little bit. Because it's also got the sonic pulsars. It's got 4 of those. Then it's got
it's got 4 sonic pulsars.
And 6 PQ1s.
Right.
So that's basically no P3s, but the equivalent of 10 P1s. Now the sonic pulsars are interesting in that they're like a phaser. In every way, they act pretty much like a phaser one.
Right.
But they have no capacitors.
Ooh.
And they can only be fired off of batteries.
Whoa. Okay. Wow. Well,
or they can be fired off of your phaser cap. I think you can fire them off your phaser caps.
well, let me look at this.
But you don't get phaser caps for them.
Right. Sonic phasers use the rules for phaser except defined differently. They cannot fire. Okay. Procedure. Sonic when turn on a weapon requiring 1 point of energy. They can fire only using reserve power or phaser capacitor system, which the Singer ships do not possess until Y175. Yep.
Yeah. Well, that ship does, the battle cruiser does have 6 P1, so it has a phaser capacitor of 6.
Right. But it's kind of shared.
Yeah. But it has a very large battery.
Oh, yeah. And that's when I was counting up, and there are 8 batteries.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, oh, jeez.
Now, that ship also has 3 flame shields.
Dang.
Yeah, I don't think there's too many tournament cruisers that could stand up to that.
Yeah, the problem here's the problem, Barry, the way I see it at the moment. Between those 2 ships, the battle cruiser and the heavy cruisers, there's a huge difference. I'm sorry. I'm truly
absolutely.
I'm truly sorry. This is not a 32 point value difference. I'm not sure
I would agree with
where
that.
they came up with this BPV for that battle cruiser versus that heavy cruiser.
It was just well, it was never play tested.
I tend to agree with that.
Yeah. Now there's another one that's kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That's hang on, I'm going down to it. On the very last page is a gun cruiser.
Okay. Look at this.
That might be the one to use.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
It's only got 3 tachyosonic beams. They're
Right.
not enhanced irregulars.
Right.
It's only got 2 sonic pulsars.
It's got 3 flame
Not
shields.
4. What's that?
It has 3 flame shields.
Has the 3 flame shields. It has
Fireballs.
fireball launchers.
Wow.
2 of them.
Yep.
And a fireball is like a, yeah. So it's got 5 heavy weapons.
Mm-hmm.
but it has 4 PQ1s and 2 sonic pulsers. So it's kind of light on phaser capability. Basically, 7 P1s, no P3s. So it's a little light on phasers.
Mm-hmm.
And it only has only 3, not 4 of the TSBs. But it does have 2 fireballs and 3 flame shields.
Yep. Wow.
That might, no, but.
Oh yeah. I agree. That seems like a better overall balanced ship for tournament play. I agree there. To me, just the weird part about it is
it's such a mixed bag.
Well, one's a mixed bag. Number 2, it's considered only 3 points. It's considered 3 points better than that battle cruiser.
It's showing 141, not 148.
Right. Well, the battle cruiser is actually no. The battle cruiser was what 148.
148.
Yeah. So it's actually considered
this is
7
141.
worse. Okay. 7 points lower. Okay.
Right, because it has the regular TSBs, not the ETSBs.
Right.
And it's only got 3 instead of 4 of them.
Right. It's only got 2 sonic pulsar versus 4.
Only 2 sonic pulsars versus 4. Oh, I'm sorry. I missed a couple of the PQ1s. So it's got 6 of the PQ1s.
Yeah, two of them are rear half.
Yeah, 2 of them are rear half. So it's got 8 total phaser ones, no P3s, basically. But then it's got flame shields and fireballs.
Right. In addition,
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, great. And has regular shields too.
Its shield. What's the size? Let's see. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. 28-point rear shield. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Wait a second.
That's interesting.
2, 4, 6,
there it is.
8,
Okay.
10, 12, 14. 28-point shields all the way around. So that's kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. And
now all 3 tachyosonic beams are FA.
Mm-hmm.
So with 8 points of battery, that ship can be sitting on a standard overload, and it can pump in, 3 points of power to give it a critical overload. Oh, look, we're in range.
Right. Yeah, but at the same time, I would never rely on getting into range 4.
No. And you cannot you can't change the arming level once you start firing.
Right. But
the fireball adds an interesting feature because an overloaded fireball is enveloping. Are you familiar with how a fireball works?
Remind me. I know we've gone through it before, but it's been a while since we.
Yeah. So you roll to hit, and if it hits, you roll for damage. And I think, and I'll have to check, but I think the overload just adds 1 point of damage per shield facing. Let me double check.
Okay. Yeah, because the fireball was one of those weird ones where you actually had to do a roll after you do the 2 hit, and then you roll for damage. It's like playing D&D.
Yeah. Yeah, basically it's a D&D fireball. Overloads.
It's a wizard.
What? It's a wizard. It's a magic user.
Yeah.
Okay. Which is different than a wizard. There's all sorts of overloaded fireballs require 3 points of power on the second turn of arming instead of 1 point. Can only be overloaded during the energy allocation. They cannot be overloaded through reserve power. Overload fireball hits. The standard damage is scored. But in addition to this, the target ship takes to 1 point of damage on all 6 shields, including the facing shield, which is cumulative with the original damage. All internal. Okay. General shield reinforcement is subtracted from the facing shield damage before it can be subtracted from the enveloping portion.
Okay. Ooh.
Yes.
So you first take all the general reinforcement against the direct damage first, and then the enveloping damage. Wow.
Yes. Fireballs are 2-turn arming, requiring 1 point each. So it's a low power draw weapon, unless you overload it.
Mm-hmm.
Then on the second turn of arming, you need 3 points of power, which has to be allocated. But what that does is, okay, you've used your tachyosonic beams, take down a shield. I can use the fireballs to guarantee at least 1 point of damage on that down shield, which, nice, but, it's only 1 point of damage. It's not like a Hellbore.
Right.
Where if you've got a down shield, game over.
Oh, agreed.
And the fireballs have limited arcs too.
Right. The ones on here are just the right front, right, and left front, left.
Yeah.
And there's. Okay, I'm looking to. Sorry, I confusing FS and FB. Whoops. So yeah, it's only the 2 fireballs.
Right.
Definitely makes. I agree. The ship definitely has potential.
Yes.
It has already 36 points of power. The question: do we want to give it the extra 2? Meaning to allow it to go speed 30.
To give it the full 30 warp?
Yeah.
I would. Yeah. In that case, it goes up to.
Yeah, because you've upgraded all of the tournament Omega ships, so they all can go speed 30, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right. So that would give it 42 power.
38.
I see 8 APR, 4 impulse.
Oh, I missed the other APR. Okay, my fault. My bad.
No problem.
Yeah, I only saw the APR on the right. I did not see the APRs on the left.
That's okay.
So that's 8, 12. Right now it's 40 points of power. Wow. That'd be 42 points of power. That's a lot of 42.
Power. And 8 batteries. Let's see. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 batteries.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I'd leave it as is when it comes to the batteries. But one thing
yes.
I might want to do is trim back the APRs by 2, since we're going to give it 2 warp to keep the power the same.
Yes. Leave it at 40 power.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And at least I think that's a good starting place.
Yes. So so that ship, basically the hold cost of the TSBs is pretty low. So it's a basic holds for 1, a light overload holds for 2, standard overload holds for 3, critical overloads can't be held.
Right. Yeah, and the damage is quite a bit different.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, which is
the
only 1 point of damage with basic, 2 points of damage with light, 3 with regular, and 4 for critical. I mean, per impulse, obviously.
right. Yeah, so that would actually make the TSB yeah, that
Okay. The TSB is a 2-turn army weapon.
yes.
So, I'm thinking tactically speaking what that means, because obviously certain things come to mind immediately. The obvious one is when it comes to firing, you want to try to get it so that you're firing at an opponent right after he turns, so that either has to bring in a new shield
Yes.
facing, he has to hit, or or he has to just take it on the same shield.
Mm-hmm.
The
So 5 impulses, that's a long time.
oh yeah, so
Chances are he's going to split it over 2 shields.
right. Okay, so most probably that's tough. Getting into overloaded range 8, is not easy, and to maintain the same shield. So definitely when it comes to closer ranges, you're definitively going to be splitting it over 2 shields. Probably your opponent is going to want to hit it on shield number 2 or shield number 6 and just keep running. Probably hit you and then turn. While you can't turn. Because if you turn,
Right.
you've given up those pulses, or whatever they're called.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Basically your pulses, yeah.
yeah, so see, that's one of those things that is a downside. Even if you had the enhanced, tachyon beams, and that is you have to maintain that direction. And the only way to maintain that direction without getting your butt handed to you, in my mind, because of what's going to happen. Let's say that you hit him and you're in like range 8. Fine, okay, first barrage, no problem. He hits you on impulse, the next impulse. Because he gets into like range 7, gets into his own overloaded range. Because if I recall correctly, some of the Omegas don't get into overloaded range till like range 7.
Range 7, yeah.
Yep. And in that case, it hits you. Okay, so you've got two pulses on the same shield. After that, he's going to turn, but you can't turn.
Right.
Now, if he's gotten overloads and he's actually gone through your shield, then he can mizzy you back.
He could.
While you're trying to maintain those pulses to give full damage against him. So you have a
Right.
choice of either taking more internals yourself, or turning away and losing the damage that you could possibly do on your weapon. So they're making your weapon possibly half as useful. You know. So
Well,
instead,
the only mitigating thing is the flame shield.
right? Not at least for the gunship or the battle cruiser, they both have the flame shield.
Yeah. And what's the flame shield? I think it's quarter damage reflected.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Flame shields are OG1. OG18. OG1. Here it is. Flame shields. Yeah, backlash against any. Activation file function of the impulse activity. And how long does that? Okay, effect. Okay. I forget how long. I thought there was a limited amount of time that they actually stay up.
They can only stay up for a certain amount of time, and then once they go down, the longer they were up, the longer the cooldown, and that cooldown is a long time.
Right. Cooldown after it has been used. A flame shield must cool down for a period of 32 consecutive impulses for each full 4 impulses of protection it produced.
For each 4 impulses of protection, it goes down for how many impulses?
32.
32.
Yep.
Ouch.
Thus, a flame shield that was active for 16 impulses would require 100, i.e., 4 turns. 128 impulses, i.e., 4 turns, before it could be activated again. So, in other words, you'd be using those flame shields probably for those 4 impulses, where you're hitting your opponent. You know,
or you could use it for 8, just to make sure.
Yeah, but then
you have 5 impulses of firing.
Right.
But remember that you have two flame shields on the number 1 shield.
That is true.
Yeah.
But it only covers the number 1 shield. It's not like it overlaps.
They do. No. The flame shield number 1 covers shields 5, 6, and 1.
No, you're missing
flame
the point,
shield 2
Barry.
covers what?
The flame shields only overlap the 1 shield. They don't overlap 2 shields. You really would like to see it overlapping both shield number 2 and number 1, and number 6 and number 1, if possible.
Well, you have 1 flame shield covering shield facings 5, 6, and 1, and the other one covering 1, 2, and 3, and the third one covering 3, 4, and 5.
Right. Oh, understood. I understand that basically, but see, Barry, what that means is your shield number 1 becomes ultra critical. Because
that one has overlapping coverage. There's 2 flame shields that cover the number 1.
Correct, but if I recall correctly, flame shields are not additive when it comes to energy back.
Correct. They are not additive. But the point is that let's say you come in kind of on the left side, out of the number 6 shield.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you bring up your flame shield and you fire 3 TSBs and you fire the 2, you fire all your phasers and you have 1 fireball that reaches. So that's a heck of a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, your opponent fires at you, but you throw a quarter of what he threw at you back at him. that can hurt.
Oh, agreed.
So, but now then you turn off and you run away. And while you're running, if it looks like he's going to get a shot on your butt, you raise the rear flame shield. And so then you get your next fireball, you get your TSBs rearmed, you get your and then you get your TSBs rearmed, and you come around on the right side and use the other flame shield.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think flame shields are that expensive to run. They're just long cooldown.
Right. Well, the biggest issue with the long cooldown is if you go over 4 impulses, then it becomes 64 impulses versus just 2 turns. Because of the TSBs can fire once every 2 turns. A minimum of 33 impulses, basically, between fire.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is that let's say you have you keep it up for 8 impulses. So that's 64 impulses of cooldown. Let's say it was Flame Shield 1 that you had up for 8 impulses, and that's 64 impulses of cooldown.
Mm-hmm.
But that's 2 turns. But by the time your TSBs are back up, and now you come in using Flame Shield 2, but Flame Shield 1 is still cooling down. Let's say you use Flame Shield 2 for 8 impulses. Okay, now you've... but by the time your TSBs come back up, Flame Shield 1 is cycled again.
Right. The tough part about that is basically changing directions.
Turn mode D is a problem.
Well, no, changing directions, because that was one of the difficulties that I had when I was fighting against it was a Romulan versus, I forget who it was, my last game, which is we're going clockwise. We're going around each other clockwise. Now,
right.
but at some point, those shields that are facing your opponent, you don't want to go clockwise because they get knocked down. So you want to change direction.
Yeah.
That's not an easy thing to do, because basically what it requires you to do is, at the very least, to break off your attack and then reestablish yourself, your dominant position, because that's the whole reason of what you're doing. Is why you're going around around, going around and around and around in a circle, is that you're trying to maintain that pressure on your opponent. And as soon as you turn in the opposite direction, you've given up that advantage of the pressure on your opponent and having him still running.
Yeah.
So
I hear what you're saying. Well, I think this ship really needs to use its head. That's almost it's got to use its head.
Right. But again, invariably you want to avoid using that head as much as possible, because for the most part, there's only two reasons to use that head. Number one is for ultimate tactical advantage. That it gives you immediate tactical advantage to either be able to chase your opponent or be able to get weapons into arc that you currently cannot, that are not in arc. That's number one. Number two is it's your escape button. It allows you to get into a situation where if you continue going the way you are going, you will have your down shield facing your opponent, or you're going to hit a seeking weapon that you don't want to hit, and that requires your hit in that situation. In my mind, premature use of that hit can cause you to lose the game. Now,
Yeah. On the other hand, there's certain ones. The Jindurian comes to mind where you need to use the het for offensive uses.
yeah, well, the Zendarian.
Andromedans very often use that. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
What's that?
The Andromeda usually uses it as a defensive tactic as it stands. It uses
like
the
Jindarian has to use it because its weapons are just all dispersed over everywhere.
Oh, agreed. But that's the reason why it currently is still unbalanced. It's still so weak in the game. You know, I would love to try to get the Jindarian in the game, in the tournament, get sanctioned. Now, I know the way they want to play it, which is the iron. What I would love to try is to get one of the asteroid ones. Awful turn modes, but powerful weapons. See if that could do any better than what you've got with the lower powered weapons, which have these arcs, which are absolutely freaking nuts. Because they're covering 360. Your heavy weapons are covering 360 degrees, but they're all color wonka. You might get two facing at any one time.
Right.
Which is the big issue with the Jindarian ship. Now, that's the wonderful part about being able to use, in the case of the Jindarian, to be able to use the asteroid ships. Yeah, the wargs, the warp railguns, they are really kind of wonkus, the same kind of arc problems. But you don't have a turn mode. You can't hit. So it doesn't matter as much. So it can't hit. I don't. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that the asteroid ships. It's not that they have really bad breakdown rating. It's just that they cannot do it.
Yeah,
I'd have to double check on the rules on that. But that sounds right to me.
Yeah. Well, the gunship might be an interesting one to try.
Yes. Oh, I agree. I think that'd be a good place to start.
Yeah.
Because I agree that the enhanced view bookmarks. I agree that the enhanced TSBs are quite a bit more powerful than ever imagined.
Oh yeah.
But again.
Yeah, they are.
But again, as we're talking through this, it also has those issues, which is that to actually be able to do all the damage they possibly do, it's got to keep the same shield facing your opponent, their opponent, or at least pretty close to it.
Standard problem with the ISC has got that same issue. Now the ISC mitigates that a little bit with splash, but
right, exactly.
This one doesn't have splash.
No, it does not. So, yeah, in some cases it wouldn't be. If you got it right, it is possible to have it so it conveys it over multiple shields. It just gets difficult.
Yeah.
Because you have to have it go. What you really want it to be is start off with shield number 6 and then bring it around to shield number 1. Or start in shield number 2 and bring it around the shield number 1. What that means, though, is that you're going from turning as an oblique attack to turning into your opponent.
Right.
Because if you're going from shield number 6 to shield number 1. Now, obviously, in a way, you want to avoid going directly in on him on shield number 1 because you're trying to protect your shield number 1. But
Right.
at the same time, it might be the best thing to do is come in on shield number 1 at a farther range, and then after you got your first, or maybe hopefully your second pulse in, then turn to the left or turn to the right at that point.
Yeah.
Now, also, after the first battle pass, that is going to be a challenge. To do that kind of maneuver where you start on shield number 1 and then switch to shield number 2 or shield number 6.
Right.
Because after the first battle pass, most probably you're going to be doing a lot of obliques. At least that's my experience.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, man. I'm falling asleep here.
okay, well, I'll let you go then.
Okay. I'll see you in a few weeks.
Oh, yeah.
At Gamers.
Yep. I'll be there with your board games.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
See you around.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
There. Yeah. So, the big thing with, as I pointed out, with the major weapon, the TSB, or then even the enhanced TSB, is going to be the same issue that you currently have with the ISC. And that is the multiple pulses. Yes, it looks, if you add up the amount of damage, either one, a PPD or TSB, or even enhanced TSB, if you want to get really nasty, it's going to be difficult to get all of those pulses on the same shield. And Lord knows, with the PPD, well, what happens usually with a PPD? Usually a PPD, a person with an IC with fires PPD at range, like starting around range 15 possibly, maybe a little closer, maybe as close as range 10, maybe. But again, at those longer ranges, what does the IC expect? The IC expects that your opponent is going to take maybe 1, probably 2 pulses on the same shield, and then turn to take 2 more pulses on a brand new shield, at least on the first battle pass. Battle passes after that, then it becomes a little more difficult, as mentioned earlier, with the whole going around and around and around in circles, which ends up and you end up fighting out of your obliques. You're doing a lot more oblique attacks than you do a head-on attack, because it's not easy. Unless you are willing to do something which you might not want to be doing, which is turning off your attack. Now, here's always the difficult part about turning off. Period. And with this ship, it's even more to the point. Is that you got 2 fireballs. You got right front right and left front right. Left front left. So that they come out at off on the sides. So if your opponent, and even though they're not going to do that much damage, to be honest, if your opponent is chasing you, but it doesn't have enough weapons overall to keep your opponent from chasing you. If you turn away from your opponent, what's your opponent going to do? Now, in theory, it depends upon who has the initiative. Therefore, that person decides what to do first. Well, if you don't have the initiative, I'm sorry. So if you say that your opponent has the initiative, that means you have to decide what you're going to do first. Are you going to turn away and then him turn towards you and chase you? Or if you have the initiative, then your opponent has to decide. Now, even given that, the question is, can your opponent, in theory, take advantage of the situation and be able to wait? you know, instead of waiting 2, then you're gonna wait. But obviously, your opponent's not gonna want to do that too much. Not gonna want to if he doesn't have the initiative, that means that he has to wait at least an extra impulse, take another impulse of damage from the TSBs or ETSBs before he decides which he's going to do. Is he going to turn away, or is he going to turn towards you? Now, obviously, as soon as you turn away, most probably you're not going to turn away first, no matter what, because of in the Singer with the TSBs, you want to hit him as much as possible. Now, of course, there's always the question of, okay, did your opponent knock down your shield? If the opponent knocked down the shield, then you've got 2 choices here. If he knocks down your shield and he's taking internals, do you stick to your guns and have it so that you can still inflict more damage onto your opponent? Or do you have to throw up your hands and go, it's not worth it? I have to turn away, possibly, but not 100% guaranteed that you're going to change it so that your weapon will be out of arc. It's possible you might be able to turn and not have the weapon out of arc. Obviously, the longer the distance, more the better possibility there is to that. I think I got that right. Yeah. Especially if you can do something like, if you are like this, where you're coming in, he's coming in. If you're coming in, tying up on a oblique, you fire at a longer distance, you can get it so that you can hit possibly the same shields, but also you can turn one way or the other easily. And so if you turn this way, you're here, then you can turn this way. He's still going to be in your FA arc, yet you have to go right across his bow. You have to almost cross you have to cross the T. But you can get it so that turning will not cause you to lose your lock or whatever, be able to still damage your opponent as your opponent comes in. So you basically have to fire at a longer range, which means less damage. Because the thing is that the critical overload range 4, that means you're knife fighting. Knife fighting is really difficult, especially knife fighting with this turn mode. Oops, sorry. With a turn mode of D, that's not easy to do. Because your opponent can be going faster and still have that turn radius on you. And that, my friends, presents a real problem. So I would never, the only time a critical overload would be, in my mind, would be, you might want to be able to do it, is if your bow stopped. That's the only time I could ever imagine that ever to happen. Now, obviously, if I'm your opponent, I never want to be stopped unless I'm going to do and I'll throw out a weasel the problems with the weasel against it is you're going to, you would probably launch one of your fireballs first. After your fireballs knocks out the weasel, then you could, and clears, then you can fire your TSBs. But even then, in my mind, the problem with doing that for the shift is that it's a delaying tactic when it comes to using a wild weasel to offset basically for the ECM shift. That's a delaying tactic. That gives you a minimum of 4 impulses, a maximum of however much your opponent will give you. So in my mind, that any person who's going to throw out a wild weasel, they've got a plan after that. At least if you don't, you've already lost. That's why in SFB, speed is life. And if you're not moving, you're dying. Now, obviously, I think the greatest expression of that is not an SFB. The greatest expression of that is going to be in Federation Commander. But that's another story for another day. So I think we'll wrap up with that. I am Paul Franz, and I bid you a good night.